me just get the record button. There we go. Right. Good morning, grade 8. Let's have a look at the brace map that you were supposed to complete. And then we can compare our notes. All right. I'm going to start there at the top. So I hope you can see that there. And let's have a look. We spoke about the factors of production last week, and we spoke about starting our own biscuit, choc chip biscuit or cookie business where we're going to sell it. And then we spoke about all the things that we need to make those biscuits and everything that needs to go into running this business. And then while we were busy with that, we grouped those things that we needed in 4 different groups during the class. And then we said, okay, you probably figured out that this is now the different factors of production that we need in order to run a business or to produce or make any kind of product or service. And then I asked you to go and fill in this brace map for us by using your textbook and then summarizing basically these factors of production. So let's have a look at what I've got, and please, if you want to add something or ask something, you can just raise your hand or talk or unmute yourself, and then we can have a nice discussion about that. So the first factor of production, just before I carry on with capital, yours needn't be, especially natural resources and the entrepreneurship, needn't be in the same order as mine, as long as it's there. Capital and labor had to be in this order because I think I gave you semi-skilled and I think borrowed as own as the clues as to what must go where. But these bottom 2 you could have done in any way. And obviously your things there might be slightly different from mine or in a different order. That is perfectly fine. Okay, so if we look at capital, then we said in business or economics or even in accounting, we differentiate between own and borrowed capital. Now, what is the difference? Own capital, and now you can check what you've written over here. Own capital is when you as the owner put your own money into the business to start that business. So that could be now money that you've saved over the years, or if you in your personal capacity took out a loan, that can be own capital. Yes, Setsareletso?
Ma'am, regarding the arrow that is showing towards the capital, the unskilled, did you have to add those things because I forgot to add them?
Over there?
Yes, ma'am.
These ones. Now, if you haven't put them in, then you can just add them in as we go along. That's not a problem. That's not a problem.
And if you have a different answer for entrepreneurship, can we tell you what it is?
Yes, yes. As we go through, you must please add and ask. Okay. All right. So own capital is then the money that the owner, his own money that he puts into the business. And obviously capital is used so that we can run our business on a day-to-day basis, and we can use that money for expenses or buying of different things. So let's have, we got another question.
Oh, sorry, ma'am. Also by labor, I did it the other way around, like skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled. Is it fine?
That's also perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. And then if you look in the textbook there on page 78 at the bottom, going onto page 79, there's a part where they speak about capital goods. Now, if you think back to when we discussed accounting, we spoke about fixed assets. Now, if you look at this work in the capital or in the economic sense, where we talk about factors of production, they actually call these fixed assets also capital goods. And I thought, let me just put that in as well, because we basically in accounting talk about fixed assets. So if you hear the word capital goods, that's normally your vehicles, your building, and your equipment. So let's all question.
No, ma'am, I'm not raising my hand. I lowered my hand.
Well, okay, let me see. Okay, there we go. There we go. Right. So you can just have a look at the capital goods, but you must also know that in accounting, if we talk about capital goods, it's or in accounting, capital goods more relate to my fixed assets, my land and buildings, my vehicles, and my equipment. Is there anything else that any of you perhaps put on or added onto own capital that you want to share with us? Not really. Okay. Please add as we go along. Right. And then borrowed capital. Now that is usually when the business would go and take out a loan from a bank. If you have a small business, you can perhaps borrow from friends or family. Now, one thing about borrowed capital, and we actually spoke about it also when we did a bit of accounting in terms of loans, is that when you borrow money from a bank or a financial institution, it is quite expensive. Why? Because that loan has to be paid back. You need to pay that money back, and you have to pay interest on that loan. So we need to know that, yes, we can go and borrow money in order for us to maybe buy things for the business, or if we have a little bit of a cash flow problem at some stage, but borrowed capital is expensive because we have to pay it back and pay interest on that. Now, one thing that I want to mention, I don't know if you saw it in the textbook when they spoke about investing. And they said people can invest in your business. Now, if somebody invest in your business by giving you a loan, we will see that as borrowed capital because you're going to pay it back and you're going to give them interest. But, and later in the year, we're going to talk about forms of ownership, different forms of business ownership. If somebody buys shares in a business, so if you have a shareholder or you yourself are a shareholder, then you are actually the owner of that business. You are partly owning the business. So if you buy shares in a business, we will see that share money or the money that you pay for buying shares as own capital. In the textbook, it doesn't really come out very clearly. So I thought, let me just explain that a little bit to you. Okay, now we move on to the next factor of production, and I saw me just add that in there by labor, that we must remember that labor can be physical or mental labor. So we can work with our hands or do something with our hands, but we can also apply our minds in terms of labor. So both will fall under labor. And then we have three groups of labor. Once again, like to relate to us, I think I gave you semi-skilled, so you can have skilled there at the top and unskilled at the bottom. That's perfectly fine as long as it's there. So now let's talk a little bit about unskilled labor. That's usually when we talk about people who really do not have any form of skill or training. And I don't know if you agree with me, but there's really very, very few jobs nowadays available where a person can actually do a job without having any form of skill. There's basically for any kind of job that you have to do or work that you have to do, you must have some form of skill. So that is why we have such a very big problem in especially South Africa. We have lots of people in our country who really do not have any skills. And that is why it's so important that we have and that the government initiates skills training and development so that people can gain skills. So this is then unskilled labor. Does anybody want to add something to that? All right, so that would be probably somebody like sweeping the streets, or a really, really very simple duty that has to be performed would be unskilled labor. Then if we look at semi-skilled labor, these are people who have some form of training. So somebody taught them how to do this or showed them how to do this, or they went through a little bit of training, and usually they can use some tools and machinery in the completion of their jobs, and they can do the job. In most cases, they do this with supervision, so they're not usually left on their own. The same would apply for unskilled labour. And there we think of people like waiters, assistant plumbers, or people who are training to become a mechanic, or even hairdressers, trainee hairdressers. Anybody who's learning a specific skill and they have some that are undergoing some training in order to be able to do a specific job. Who wants to add something there? Mutitsi or Matsatsi, I see you also there. Please ask and please add. Ne? Right, then we look at skilled labour, and that is people where who have studied at a technicon or a college or a university, and they normally have some form of certification, a degree, or a diploma. It can also be that people have done something for a very, very long time, and they learned a skill, and they became highly specified, specialized or qualified in that specific skill while doing the job. So that we said they learned on the job. That can also be, they can also be classified as skilled labor. And then usually skilled labor cost a lot of money because businesses would pay for those skills and expertise of the people that would be classified as skilled labor. Right, so those are then the different categories of labor, and that's then also one of our factors of production. Good. Then we went on to natural resources. Who of you have got something else or something that you want to add there? I wrote, it's your normal land, so your farming land that you would need to plant crops and so on. Minerals that we extract from the earth. We need water. Even air could be classified as a natural resource. Vegetation, animals, anything that's basically in its raw form or state that we use in order to produce a product or perhaps a service for that matter. Happy with that? Okay, and then the last factor of production, we spoke about it. We said that if we do not have a person who can take the risks and combine the other factors of production, no business would actually come to light. So we need that entrepreneur who will combine capital, labor, and natural resources in order to start a business and to run a business. And then, I don't know if some of you perhaps listed some of those characteristics of an entrepreneur. If we look there on page 85, I think there are a few characteristics of an entrepreneur. For example, they are hardworking. They're prepared to take the risk. Somebody must put up his or her hand and say, listen, I want to start this business. It's scary, it's daunting, but I'm going to try and do it. So an entrepreneur is prepared to take risks. Normally people who are innovative, they come up with new ideas. They see a problem, they come up with a solution, and they turn it into a business. They're prepared to persevere. So when things go tough and things are not going their way, entrepreneurs, they persevere. If we think of the situation we're in now, many business owners are really, really struggling. Some of them can't even open their businesses, but it's those people who are true entrepreneurs that will even sustain through this difficult period that we are in now. They say they're good with people. Normally entrepreneurs are people or people's people. They like to interact with their customers and their clients. They like to work with people. You have to be motivated if you want to be a business owner and an entrepreneur, and it must be self-motivation. You yourself must want to make this business successful. And then also able to work on your own. When other people go out and having fun or go to bed, it's usually those dedicated entrepreneurs who are still working and burning the midnight oil. And then very importantly, grade 8, and that's why I'm so excited about EMS as a subject, is that entrepreneurs are those people who create jobs. We know that especially in our country and with our situation, the government cannot provide jobs for everybody. We sit with a very high unemployment rate. Yesterday, I read on Twitter where somebody mentioned that he is convinced that we're sitting on about 52% unemployment rate in the country. And if we look at people who've given up looking for jobs, people that the government doesn't even know that they don't have a job, we're looking at half of our population sitting without a job. Our government cannot provide jobs for everybody. So it's entrepreneurs who take the risk, combine the factors of production, use their special skills and characteristics, and then also create jobs for other people. Right. Are there any questions, something that somebody perhaps want to add or ask on these 4 factors of production that we now just unpacked a little bit through this brace map? Who wants to ask or add something? Are you all skilled in this now? Would you be able to write a little test on this? I'm sure you will. And I really hope that this brace map helped you a little bit just to group the things together and to get a bigger picture of the factors of production. So if you look at your, okay, there I see Tsireletso, you raised your hand. Are you still here? Okay, I see the hand, but I don't see her. Let's continue. You must now do for practice. It's there on Google Classroom, Activity 1 on page 79, where 2 guys started their business, actually informal business, and how they progress. And then there's also another exercise, that Activity 2, I think, that we gave you to now go and implement what you've learned here. Then in our next lesson, we will schedule that for Wednesday. We're going to then delve a little bit deeper in the other factors of production. So by labor, we're going to look at laws, labor laws, and so on. Yes, Tsireletso?
May I please ask, I didn't, by entrepreneurship, I wrote hardworking, risk takers, motivated, able to work on their own.
Wonderful that you use this on those lines. Did you write it on those lines? Did you write it on these lines? Like risk, you wrote there, risk taker, hardworking, over here.
Yes,
that's perfectly fine. Like I said, none of us's brace map will be exactly the same. This is just to help you to unpack a little bit each of the factors of production. So that's perfectly fine. Right. Okay, so you can do those 2 exercises, and then we'll put on the memo tomorrow, and then Wednesday we're going to tackle, we've looked now a little bit at capital more in detail, and then we'll talk a little bit about labor in our next lesson. Any questions? All fine? Okay, wonderful. Thank you for joining the class, grade 8. It was nice chatting to you. You must have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.